Hello, and welcome to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Welcome back to Wilaker, Chapter 16. Pretty fun stuff there. Gotten all the way to Chapter 16. I think this will be probably 20 episodes. Exciting stuff. Yesterday, I passed 11 months sober. I was trying to get an episode out yesterday, but I'm traveling. I'm flying, and it's just one of those things where it just doesn't work out. Just timing-wise, it takes a little dedication to doing this, and also lost a piece of my recording equipment, but it's a very replaceable piece. Of all the pieces to lose, it's the most replaceable and cheap, but I just don't have it right now. And luckily, everything gets edited in post. But I'm in Oakland, California. I'm headlining the Lost Church. That's tomorrow here in San Francisco, just across the bridge. And I'm here with my friend Hannah Roshline. She is out at a conservatory looking at a corpse. Not a body, a corpse flower. Like blooms like once every 10 years or something. I was going to go, but I don't have any money and I need to do this. So priorities. You are my priority, everyone. But 11 months sober, I'm pretty excited because that means, this podcast should be over about the time I hit a year, which is pretty exciting. And it's also, I can announce that on July 31st, 2026, I'm saying the year, because if you are listening from the future, if you're like, oh my God, did you know that the world's greatest porn star, Will Abels, used to do stand-up comedy, but also had a podcast about his sobriety? I didn't know. Anyway, that's crazy to think about. If you're listening from the future, it's July 31st, 2026. I'm going to be recording an album. It's not an entirely original album. We will be taping it as well, but I've always wanted a vinyl. It's going to go straight to vinyl. I was a little bit inspired by Sergil Simpson going straight to vinyl with his last album. And there's just a couple of stories I have that I just really think they didn't get their time in the sun with the Pride of Hagerstown. I'm not entirely excited about where some of that went. Not for any particular reason. It's just, you make a project and you have expectations, and sometimes they just don't meet those expectations. And I just want a couple of these stories to kind of get their time in the sun. So I'm going to tape it, cut those up, put those on YouTube and Instagram and all that kind of crap. But also I'm going to make vinyls for the road. The working title right now is just 7 stories. We're taping it July 31st at Love and Exile. Corey Perry's going to open for me. He's going to do 20, 25 minutes up top. He's also taping. Long overdue for him to get a proper taping. And we're just going to put it out there and see what happens. I hope to see you there. Pre-sales have just begun, so if you want to jump on that, it's promo code EARLYBIRD, all caps, and you can check that out. That'll be in the link in my bio on Instagram. And if you're in the service industry, look around town. You get your own special discount code, and I'm not going to announce it on here because I don't trust a lot of you, but service industry, I'm giving you guys a separate code because I want you there, but it's a Friday, and I know what that means if you're there on a Friday. So I want to make sure the ticket's a little bit cheaper because I'm just a man of the people, and God, what a hero. But that'll be July 31st. So I've been on the road the last 2 weeks. I just flew to Chicago on Tuesday, did my taping for OnlyFans. It went really well. I botched the first line. Taping is different than just doing a club spot and getting a tape. I was all mic'd up and there's no host, so I just had to walk out. And that kind of threw me off. Crowd was a little rowdy, to be honest, for a taping. But it worked with, I made it work. It was just the first minute I had to kind of be like, all right, how are we doing this? And also I start slow and build. I like to establish my personality and I kind of get you into it. And then I, hit you with the good stuff later on. So I had to kind of build and get into it. And just get comfortable. But overall, I'm really happy with it. All the other comics were killers. I mean, everyone crushed. I think they should be really happy with it if they're not. And I had a blast. It was really cool. Got no sleep. everything about my plan did not go well. I left my leather jacket in my rental car in LA, got a hold of them. They're going to ship that back to Nashville. I think I was operating on 3 hours collective sleep. I snuck in 3 1-hour naps. The guy next to me on my flight couldn't have been a worse partner, worse patron to be next to me. I mean, just was spilling over the seat, watched this movie the whole time, just was in the way. That's why I really couldn't get any sleep on the plane. And then I got to the airport where initially I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to my gate and take a nap. And they stopped collecting bags between 12:30 and 3 or something. So I just sit there for like an hour and a half, wait for them to open up, drop my bag off, get through the gate. LAX is massive. Not the friendliest TSA for 3 a.m. Really like to yell at people at 3 a.m., which I thought was good call. Good. That's cool. That's good rapport. And then I finally got to I got to my gate at like 4, had to board at 5:30. So I got like a little hour sleep in, got on the plane, slept for another hour. And then I was able to sleep in Chicago. And then, like I said, I'm in San Francisco. I'm headlining Lost Church tomorrow with my friend Hannah Rochline. And Hannah, because she's still in California, she let me use her place, and I got to sleep another hour there. And then we did the taping. And then I went to Mother's Ruin. I had a basket of French fries to myself and a club soda. And then I went to sleep for 9 straight hours, and it was awesome. And then yesterday I spent the day traveling here to Oakland, where the Airbnb is for the show. And I just didn't get a chance to record yesterday. I wanted to, but even sleeping until 9, I had to get all the way to O'Hare. I'm trying to take public transportation to save money. And that's the glamorous life of a rock star, of a future porn star like Will Abels. But if you want to follow me on OnlyFans, you can. I'll be active on there. It's part of my contract. So I'll be active. Not everything's behind a paywall. One thing I'm doing is I'm posting a lot of comedy. It's a lot of uncut sets. So, when I record something, normally I just take out 1 or 2 jokes, or I take some crowd work, or I don't do a lot of crowd work, but when it happens, I try and cut it up. Or if it's like a riff or something like that, or just a fun interaction with an audience member, I cut those up and I put them on Instagram or whatever. So what I'm doing on OnlyFans is I'm just releasing full sets, so you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, sure, I'll put some thirst traps behind a paywall for you hornballs out there. And yeah, that's what's going to be happening in the next 6 months. All right, into the podcast, into Wilaker. Here we go. I don't normally do that much up top, but I watched the documentary on Mark Maron yesterday on my flight. Also, this kid kept walking up. It's like not like a kid, like a child, like a 3-year-old kept walking up and watching my phone over my shoulder. And I was like, I'm watching Mark Maron. Like, it's not like Yabba Gabba or whatever those things are called. I was like, it's fucking Mark Maron. Like, get out of here, kid. Also, like, whose kid is this? Anyway. So I was a little inspired by Mark Maron, did a little more up top kind of. I'm just feeling it, I'm just feeling the vibe. I'm feeling the Maron going through me. It's a really good documentary. Are We Okay? I think is what it was called. Yeah, it was a really good documentary. I don't remember what it was called, but it was pretty good. But anyway, check out the Maron documentary. It's interesting. It's a good it's interesting way to navigate through grief. And between last episode and now, a lot of comics are grieving right now because we lost our good friend Johnny Rosenberger, unfortunately, last week. And, it was an appropriate time to watch this documentary because it is navigating grief and comedy. And I feel like I've been doing it last week, and I know his very close friends, his inner circle, is really struggling right now. And I'm thinking of all of you. And I think the silver lining when you lose someone as special as Johnny is you see how far his kindness went. I mean, I can't begin to describe how kind this person was and how genuine the kindness was. And there was no expectation for it to come back to him in return. And, I was in LA when I found out. There was a group of us met up and, just got to share some stories and catch up. I mean, it was nice just seeing a lot of these guys, like Kyle Ayers, I haven't seen in years, and I got to catch up with him, and it's just nice seeing him as well. But you just see this, I don't know. A lot of this podcast is about the ripple effect of throwing a stone in a lake, right? We talked about Todd Snyder, or I talked about Todd Snyder and his effects on me, even though I didn't know this person, wasn't even a huge fan, but his effects on me and my journey towards sobriety and, just my genuine appreciation for what he did. Johnny is in that same vein where it's just, you throw a stone in the lake, you see the ripples go out, and it's incredible how far those ripples go. And miss you, buddy. And, thank you for everything. I mean, you had this unparalleled gift to reach out to people when they needed it the most, and you didn't even, they didn't even know, or you didn't even know that was like, that's what you were doing. You just reached out and you just were always there at the right time. And it's funny because you actually make a cameo in one of the upcoming episodes, which is so funny because I was looking back at our messages and I was like, wow, that's going to be part of Wilaker. And I forgot that you reached out then. And that's just, that's your timing, bud. That's your timing. And we all miss you, and there will never be anyone like you. And we love you. And I hope that you are in a better place. And I hope that you are getting plenty of minor league baseball hats and kitten time. But love you, bud. All right, let's get into Wilaker, because this is a special episode, because it's not just about me. It's actually about a really dear friend. And, when you do lose somebody, your perspective, at least momentarily, because, we're also ADHD and just, we're just experiencing trauma day in and day out with our nightmare of a president and just the way society is in general. But at least, another silver lining with operating with grief and the loss of a friend is you appreciate things a little bit differently. You appreciate the day-to-day. The big things become small, and the small things become big. And this was a fun episode because I'm in Denver, and I have kind of a couple days to sort of figure it out. Like, I was supposed to be in Kansas City on a Thursday. I believe Thursday was the very last day of the Experience Files tour. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, I just kind of had off. And I was going to originally go to Kansas City a day early and try and line up some shows there. But it just didn't happen. And so I got the opportunity to go see an old friend, my friend Andy Lytle. Andy is a Hagerstown native. I've known him since I was 4 or 5 years old. His mom taught me or attempted to teach me piano. Unsuccessfully, not her fault, my fault. I don't have any musical inclinations, but good God, can I write a lyric? And what if that was true? What if this whole time I was just in Nashville being a songwriter? No, because that wouldn't be me. I would be bragging about it so much. I don't think that things need to go quietly. I think everyone needs to know the greatness that you achieve. See, and this is the highs and lows of Wilaker, where you go, God, Will is so sincere. And then you go, up there he is. There's the egomaniac that we know and love. But I've known Andy a long time. Andy hits me up, and he's like, hey, bud, I'm off the road. Do you want to come and hang out in Breckenridge? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't have a Tuesday show lined up. So originally I thought, all right, I'm going to drive from Breckenridge all the way to Kansas City. That added 2 hours. And so I kind of hit up JD and Jen last minute and was like, hey, I'm going to go out to Breckenridge for a day. Can I stay here one more night? And they were like, well, we're traveling and Jen's parents come in Thursday morning, but if you're out early, it's fine. And I was like, I have to be out early. And, I can't thank them enough. I don't think they realized how drunk I was that whole time, or maybe they did, but I had such a fun time hanging with them. And there was this part of me, JD and Jen, there was this part of me that was like, what if I just live in their basement, get my feet settled in Denver, and just move here? And, it's funny when you have these drunk ideas that aren't the worst. And, fortunately, I didn't burn any bridges with them, or I wasn't a nightmare to be around. And I stayed with them again my last trip, and that was nice. But, I said, hey, I'm going to kind of come back through for one more night. Is that okay? Kind of extended my trip. And they were nice. They were like, yes, of course you can. And but Tuesday night, I'm going to go out to Breckenridge. And I'm going to stay with Andy and his partner, girlfriend, Kelsey. And they tell me to come meet them at some famous overlook. I don't know what it is, but it overlooks this lake, the mountains, everything. So I drive the hour and a half out to Breckenridge. Gorgeous drive, very nostalgic for me. My dad and I used to go out to Breckenridge and ski all the time. When I was 12, he took me straight to the top of a bowl, and I fell down that entire bowl. That was a core memory for me. I got to the bottom. Dad was laughing his ass off. That's why I have no fear, because when you survive things like that, you just go, oh, okay, I guess I'm a little tougher than I thought I was, or whatever. Or you're just like, well, at least my dad's laughing. But a very nostalgic drive. And I get out there, meet up with Andy and Kelsey, and we're, just the most breathtaking view. And I've since seen my friend Mac out there. It's just one of those spots that you go to. And then they're like, all right, you want to come back to the place and we'll hang out here for a little bit. And then she had to go to work. And then eventually we would make our way downtown. Now, I actually was like, okay, I've been drinking a little bit too much. I'm going to chill out. And I'm sure Andy will be cool with that. And then I saw him, and then instantly my brain was like, we're going to get old school, good old fashioned drunk. Like, this has to happen, And it's just one of those, it is. I have found other ways to enjoy experiences without drinking. Obviously, I'm 11 months sober. Like, I figured it out. But at the time, it is something I kind of miss. Is just the little sneakiness of like, oh, we're just going to get hammered. And Andy takes me to his place. He kept talking about getting a fish on the line, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about fishing. And then I got to his place, and I was like, oh, I don't want to fish. I want to watch him fish. I want to completely immerse myself in what his day-to-day is. Because what Andy does is he is a sound engineer. He is the sound engineer for Billy Strings. And he's been with Billy for a long, long time. And it's just a great story of just believing in your friend, and you guys just go in it together, and then next thing you know, you're doing sound at fucking Bridgestone, and he does it for other musicians and artists and stuff like that. But that's his job, and he was off the road. We tried to catch each other a few times. It was sort of funny. A few times over the years, we've been in the same city but haven't been able to meet up. We met up in New Orleans once when I was working on Miss Universe, and we had a great time catching up then. That was back in 2022, and I hadn't seen him since then. I think that was the last time I had seen him. We were both in Asheville, North Carolina at the same time, and Billy was trying to bring tourism back to Asheville after their floods, and I was the first comedy show back. And so me and Billy were top billings on this publication about what to do, what to see and stuff, and they were bad-mouthing whatever that puppet comedian's name is, the racist puppet guy. I don't know. It's not worth Jeff Dunham. And it was like, I was like texting Andy. I was like, look at this shit. And so it was like me and Billy. I sold 25 tickets, which is about my average, which is pretty good. But it was pretty funny seeing a sea of wooks just storming through Asheville streets to go to this Billy String show. And I'm like, 5 of you can come here, But anyway, we've intersected a couple times, but I hadn't seen him since 2022. Get all the way out to their place, and this place is perfect. It's like, I don't know if it's an old ski condo. I don't know what it is. But there's a few of them out there. Their dogs just run around. They're all friends. They play with each other. They have a couple of neighbors. There's like a small bridge, a stream, a couple of little lakes. And they have, I didn't see them, but there's apparently moose that come in. It's like 12 minutes outside of town. And it's just a little bit up the mountain. It's breathtaking. And Andy grabs his rod, takes me to the stream he likes to fish in, immediately gets a fish, and it's just fun. And then we start catching up. Now, one thing that was funny was that I was like, I'm not going to drink that much. It'll be fine. And the second I walk in, Andy's like, do you want to do a shot out of my Grammy? And I was like, 1,000%. And immediately, yeah, and that's when my brain was like, yeah, no, we're getting good old-fashioned drunk. So he pours some tequila into the... It's funny because he's like, you want whiskey or you want tequila? And this was still my dumb drunk brain that was like, oh, no. As long as I don't drink whiskey, I don't have a drinking problem. I'm fine as long as I stick to tequila. Honestly, I probably heard Bert Kreischer say some dumb shit like that. But anyway, he pours the tequila into his fucking Grammy, into the horn, and I got to do a shot out of it. I did a lot of shots out of that Grammy. At any point that I was drinking liquor in that house, I had to drink it out of the Grammy. And it's honestly a highlight of my life, truly. And I hope to one day take a shot of water out of my future Grammy. That's how sobriety works, huh? I'll never do that again. Well, anyway, so we're just having a good time. We're catching up and fishing, do all that kind of stuff, and just having a good time. And then we go into town, and I get to just see how the other half lives, go to the bars. And it was fun being in Breckenridge when it was out of season, because I've only ever really been there in the winter, and just got to kind of see the townspeople. Cut to this October, I'll be headlining in Breckenridge on October 1st, and I'm excited to go back. But we just had a great night out, and it was really fun. And then we get back to his place, and that's when, the liquor's at the right point, the beer's at the right point. I can't remember if we smoked. I don't think I smoked because I would have just fallen asleep. But then we start kind of talking about our childhood, and because there was a point in our life that we sort of separated. Like, we still lived in the same town, but I never saw him anymore. And we would like play baseball together every once in a while and things like that. But he went to a different high school, and I would hear like rumors about him, and I just like didn't really see him ever. And so we sort of pieced together the parts of the puzzle that were missing in our, just from our childhood, from high school, from middle school, and that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to divulge too much into that because it's personal and private, but it was so nice to finally fill that hole and that void and understand what he was maybe going through at that time, and just not realizing a lot of things. And it was cool. It was like a nice human moment and fun. And then we started like really getting into our childhood. I think I knocked his teeth out once on accident while we were skiing or while we were sledding. And, little nostalgic moments were happening. So we decided to put on Dumb and Dumber. And I think we put on 2 movies, but I remember one of them being Dumb and Dumber. And that was special because I always associated him with Jim Carrey, because one time he showed up at baseball and I was doing something stupid and he was like, I never realized how much you're like Jim Carrey. And that's something that always stuck with me, because I do try and emulate my influences. And in comedy and stand-up, it's Gary Goldman and Steve Martin and Rory Scovel. And like, yeah, you're never going to watch my jokes. Like, the early days of a joke, you might watch it and go, oh, that sounds like Rory, or that sounds like Gary. And then eventually I make it into a Will Abel's joke. It's just the cadence is there or something like that, the writing structure. But my early days before I was doing stand-up, I loved making people laugh, and I loved laughing with people. And so like Chappelle's Show, I just loved quoting Chappelle's Show all the time, within, reason. I should disclaimer, within reason. But I just love, because I can't do impersonations of a lot of celebrities, but I can impersonate comedians, and I think that's just because I watched them so much when I was growing up. But I always remember Andy saying like, oh, you always remind me of Jim Carrey. And I remember being like, this is the highest compliment I've ever received in my entire life. It had been a short life at that point. I was probably like 15, but still high praise. So we watched that. And then, go to sleep. We have separate rooms. I cuddle in bed with him. No, I had a separate room. Wake up the next day, and then I have to make my way back to Denver. And I just didn't want to leave. I could have spent a week there. It was just such a wonderful, there's just something about running into old friends like that it just fills your cup. And it's not my favorite saying, but it's the only way I can describe how I felt after that. Like, it was just so nice to see this friend, to have this history together, and just more importantly, to see how happy he was, to see how much success he'd achieved by walking his own path. And that's what I love to see, people walking their own path and finding success. And, I'm trying to do that. I think I've had some semblance of success, but I'm not quite where I want to be. But when I get there, I'm going to be so happy that I did it on my rules and I didn't bend my integrity to get there. Eventually that'll have to happen. I've talked about this a little bit. Netflix is a nightmare of a company. There's a good chance I'm on Netflix sometime in the next couple of years. It's just how it is. NBC, nightmare of a company. Fallon fucking sucks. He's an idiot. He sucks. And I would gladly take that spot, but you're bending your integrity a little bit in those situations. But until then, I'm not going to, go open for people that help bring back fascism. So anyway, Andy got to walk his own path. He trusted in Billy. Billy trusted in him, and they did it. I mean, they did it. So the next day I wake up and we go back to the bar to get breakfast because Kelsey was working again. And she did something really nice because I was going to buy a bottle of wine to give to Jen. And then she gave me the bottle of wine because the owner was like, no, this guy, I don't know why the owner liked me. I guess I had met him the night before. But he gave me a bottle of wine. And then I had to make my way back to Denver for my final night. And every time I go to Denver, I don't want to leave. And I know eventually I'll end up there, but right now I just can't do it. And I think there's I think I'm being sane about this. I think I'm being smart, where I do believe my next step has to be New York or LA because I need to be around more industry. I don't have enough credits, and I don't have I'm selling at best 25 to 30 tickets on the road. Sure, some of these I sell very well, but it's very, I can't do shows in Hagerstown every single time. And until I'm at a point where I'm very seriously selling tickets, I can't I justify moving to an adjacent scene to Nashville. I mean, Nashville should be an entertainment town, but it's another story for another day. And I know that at some point I'll get to be with my friends and go out to Denver and just get to kind of, be on my own terms of comedy, but I'm not there yet, and I'm going to keep working towards that goal. And because it's such a hard place to leave for me every single time. So I get back in the town and I go to a bar, and I pretty much picked a alt-right cop bar. Could have picked any bar in Denver, and I just picked the nearest one to the house, and went to an alt-right cop bar. And I talked to the lady a little bit, and she was kind of giving me this whole, like, when she found out I was a comic, she was giving me the whole cancel culture, like, you can't say anything anymore. I'm like, you can say whatever you want. It's just sometimes you get punched in the face, whether that's a metaphor or literal, that's just what happens. But she was nice enough. And I had my last little night there, and I make my way back to Jen and JD's, and I believe they were asleep by the time I got there. And it's my final night in Denver, and I haven't really heard from the booker in KC, and I don't know why, because they've been very proactive up until then. I thought that was strange. Also, a reminder, I don't have an Instagram account. I'm using my backup account that has like 300 followers, and I'm trying to promote my final show. It's my last push to make any money before I go back to Nashville. Clearly, my drinking it's back in full force. There's no stopping it. I have mentally gotten around the idea. Like, I used to really have a hard time with like the lost time, that kind of stuff. And I now believe that every moment that has happened to you up until this point was necessary to get you to this point. If you're in a healthy place, if you're still in a bad place or a rough place, then, hopefully the changes that you need to get to a good place are coming. But I do believe I wouldn't be where I'm at now without every single one of these memories and all these people that came back into my life at that time and got me to where I am now. And there's more to come, and there's more people that walk in and help me get there. But I don't have as much regret as I did about a year ago. Like, I feel like, this was all necessary to get me here. And it's just about experience. You got one life. Yeah. Unfortunately, I spent a little bit of it very, very drunk, but some of those memories are fantastic, and I'll have them the rest of my life, from what I can remember. Taking a shot of tequila out of Andy's Grammy in Breckenridge and just watching him fish, going into town, getting to see his life, catching up with him, watching Dumb and Dumber. It's a moment I'm going to cherish the rest of my life. And yes, we were drinking, but the drinking wasn't it wasn't the main actor in that movie, right? It was the experience and the love and the friendship and bonding and all that kind of stuff. So I'm back. So I get back to Denver, and I got one night. I'm packed, and then I just got to kind of haul ass to Kansas City the next day for my final show. And my alarm goes off at 6 a.m. And then we go to the final night. So this has been Wilaker. It's a different episode than the past few, because it was just one day, which doesn't normally happen. But I wanted to spend time and talk about my relationship with Andy. And, I wanted to acknowledge Johnny. I wasn't going to, but that's just it's not my style. It's not my style. Everyone needs to be remembered for... It'd be better if more people remembered for their kindness and not for their evil doings. And I feel myself getting to a point where I'm being consumed by a lot of negativity, and a lot of it stemming out of Nashville. And I'm starting to take steps to push that away from me and try and focus on the positives. And, like I said, it's a tragedy losing Johnny, but there is a positive in there, not in the death, obviously not in the loss, but in the community that was around him, and that community once again coming together. And I hope that if you're going through the loss of someone, I hope that the good memories are shining through in the brightest way possible and completely shadowing any bad memories. Unfortunately, I don't have a single bad memory of this person. And now I can say the same with Andy. I don't have a single bad memory with Andy, but he's not. Andy's around. Andy's fine. I talked to him the other day. I was trying to see him in Nashville. My flight got canceled, so that was unfortunate. But in this way, I feel like I'm catching up with him, rehashing that very wonderful night. And I'll be missing him. I'll be staying at his place in Breckenridge when I'm there, but I won't. He'll be on the road again. But For some reason, Billy and I tend to have very similar touring schedules, making the same amount of money, for sure. But I kind of have I really want to do a Will Follows Billy tour. So hopefully I can do that at some point in my career, because I just think it'd be so much fun. And I saw Andy. What am I talking about? I saw Andy 5 months ago at a Billy Strings concert. God, I'm an idiot. So I saw him in 2022 in New Orleans. And then, I just saw Andy I forgot because it was a very brief interaction. Andy got me tickets to see Billy Strings. God, I am so stupid. Write one note down. Write one note down, Will, while you're doing this podcast. God damn. Andy, thank you for the tickets to Billy Strings. And I'm sorry that I forgot that I got to see you very briefly. The concert was phenomenal. I understand what everyone's talking about when they say it's life-changing. I took an edible. Honestly, took an edible, hit hard, had a bowl of popcorn, and just had a great time. I mean, yeah. My bad, guys. My bad. I've just remembered, I've actually mentioned going to that concert in an earlier episode. Fucking whatever. You know what? You go make Wilaker if you're so goddamn organized and thoughtful. It almost like negates the entire episode just forgetting that shit. You fucking dumb bitch. Dumb bitch. Anyway, come see me at Lost Church, June 26th, headlining with Hannah Rochline. And then come to my taping next month in Nashville, July 31st. Pre-sales are out now. It's going to be at Love and Exile, 8 p.m. Corey Perry's opening. It's going to be a great time. And call a friend today. Call a friend, call a loved one, and if there's someone you've been putting off talking to, go talk to them, Moments are finite. Cherish them. All right, Kenny, take us away.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.